Hey everyone, it's Mystery here, and today I'm doing something that, it's not really in my wheelhouse, what I normally do, or what I would normally stick to, and that's because I am critiquing a build today. And I'll critique builds of my viewers and stuff, but I tend not to like go outside uh, of my bubble and start in on other people. But sorry, I'm talking away from the mic. But this build jumped out to me, and I felt like I needed to say something. This is the most upvoted Zealot build and the second most upvoted build on the whole Games Lantern site. Now you can see it has 223, so there's not that many people that are actually like upvoting this stuff. But it doesn't mean there's not a lot of people that are looking at this, and it's right at the top when you go to the builds page. See it right here, and so I was like, okay, it says Zealot meta, and this is something I've gotten in trouble for before with the meta police, Tanner. But I think it's actually correct to police the use of that terminology, because meta implies, or not implies, meta means that this is the most effective tactic available, right? META. In the gamer nerd sense, it means that. What I interpret that to mean, and what every player who actually cares and thinks about what meta means interprets this to mean, is that if I have perfect skill, then this build will return the most on my skill investment. So when I'm looking at Zealot builds, right, if this is a meta build and this is a meta build, then these builds should be the same, right? These should both, or they should have equal potential. And when I take them into a game, whichever one does the most damage and takes the least damage, if the players are of equal skill, if I went into a game and I played both of these builds, this one and this one, which one would take the least damage and which one would do the most damage? That would be the new meta build. It would be the best build. It would be, all other things being held constant, this one returns the most on my skill investment. So, other things are important in builds too, like ease of use and stuff like that. If this build said casually clear damnation or something like that, perfect. No notes. But it says meta, so I have to gatekeep this because it's been done to me, and I'm gonna do it to you. God damn it. No. What I'm really trying to say is, I don't like this being on the top of the page because I feel like it's going to show people, especially new people to the game that are getting this at a resource, some bad information. And I am just here to set the record straight and correct that bad information. That is all. I don't want anyone to direct any hate or even comment about this on social media or anything. Don't go on Reddit and be a fucking loser and say like, oh, that guy who made that build sucks and Mystery told me why. I don't care who this is. I don't know if they're a fellow content creator or what they are, but this build is not meta, and I'm going to point out why. Okay, here we go. All right, so, by the way, if you do want a meta build, meaning a build that, assuming you're like the best player possible and you're really, really skilled, you'll get the most damage and be able to solve the most situations and win the most games, etc., etc., check out this build right here. It's also on there. It's got like 21 upvotes. It's by whoever this guy is, or girl. I don't know. Sometimes I can't tell. But yeah, this is a meta build. This is absolutely a meta build. Pretty much 100% agree on everything that I see here. And I know that because I run this build, or a very, very slight variation on this build all the time, and it absolutely crushes. I have also run a slight variation on this meta, quote unquote, meta build, and it is not as good, and I'll get into why. Here we go. All right, so first and foremost, dueling sword, fine. Riposte, questionable. And flak armored enemies damage, also questionable. When I saw this initially, I was going, why riposte? Because this is putting us way over crit cap, and then I saw we don't have crit here, and I was like, okay. So they didn't take crit there, and they took a little bit extra crit, but we're still getting 15% crit that we really don't need. Like, this is too much crit, honestly. I know that sounds weird, but like, there's a sort of a magic number for crit that's around like 50-60%, where that's enough, and more than that is taking away from other things we could be doing. Because we also have guaranteed crits from charge, right? Then we have Agrippa, and it's very questionable. The meta choice for a ranged weapon for a Zealot right now is 100 million% the Spearhead bolt gun. The bolt gun is disgusting in this last update. It has like crazy pinpoint accuracy. It's really easy to keep on target. You can mag dump a boss and drop half of their health in like 1 second. It augments its damage. It gets a 1.5x multiplier from headshots and crits, and you can augment that further by being zealot and get it, having duelist and all that good stuff. So it's easily the meta choice. You can even skip its equipment animation by throwing a knife, which is the meta choice for Blitz. Yeah, okay. So not meta. So already the build off to a bad start because this is not meta. And especially these weird blessings. This might have been meta or something okay to use in the past, and it might still be okay. I'm not saying this build isn't okay. I'm not saying this build couldn't clear Auric Maelstrom. You can clear Auric Maelstrom with a wet noodle equipped in your melee and a squirt gun equipped in your secondary, right? It's all about skill. But if you're looking to have your skill be multiplied by having the best possible melee weapon, the best possible range weapon, and the best possible Curios, and the best possible talent tree, this is not it, and this is much closer to what it is. Okay, so already very questionable. Should be using the Spearhead Bolt Gun instead, but hey, we'll leave it as is. Coming down to the Curios, this is when my eyebrow really started to raise. My eyebrow is at about half mast here. It's like halfway up my forehead. Big creases forming on my forehead. Health Curios. Health Curios were considered okay. They're about tied with toughness Curios when the game came out, because there was a lot of things that could damage your health through your toughness. However, these days the only thing that can damage your health through your toughness is exploding barrels and exploding flamers that are anywhere near you. Other than that, your toughness protects your health fully. So we stack toughness on the Zealot because the Zealot has amazing abilities at keeping his toughness full to high, and his toughness is multiplied in value by his toughness damage reduction. Just for some like soft ballpark numbers, the Zealot has the approximate toughness damage reduction that gives him, for every point of toughness that he gets, he effectively gets 3 points of value from it. So anytime you see like plus 17% toughness on the Curio, what it actually should be is plus 51% toughness, because he has 60 to 70% toughness damage reduction that like pretty much all the time. So his toughness is artificially extended by having a lot of toughness damage reduction. And what this build posits, or what the author of this build posits, is that you have enough toughness damage reduction and enough toughness already. You don't need to stack anymore. However, that's not the case, because the Zealot has a few other tricks up his sleeve that can regenerate huge chunks of toughness at any given time. He has the charge ability that has 2 charges to the charge, and that gives you 50% of your toughness back instantly. So if you have 51% toughness from having all 3 toughness Curios, and then an extra 15% more down here, so you have 66% toughness. That's 66% more toughness you generate on every charge. And if you have 15% toughness replenishment on a dodge, that's like 22 or 23% that you replenish on a dodge, roughly. Like you were getting a multiplicative increase to the value of those perks, which is some of his strongest defensive perks. And the Zealot is kind of unique in the way that he can regenerate toughness by just existing. He can regenerate 50% of his toughness by just using his ultimate ability, which is insane. It can be used offensively or defensively, and he can regenerate 15% toughness every time he dodges an attack. So he can be running away from enemies and generating huge amounts of toughness just by sliding repeatedly, which is your predominant way of moving around the map. So already this should be toughness. This is not meta currently. Meta is toughness. Then I get down to the perks, and oh boy, if we were in any semblance of Metaville, we are leaving Metaville. We are getting on the bus to what the fuck is this weird build town. We are getting 2 doses, 2 heaping helpings of sniper damage resistance. We're taking 40%, which is actually multiplicative to like 39 or 38% damage resistance to snipers, the completely avoidable enemy that puts a big obvious red laser on you and then makes an auditory noise when they're about to actually fire said laser, so that you can dodge or slide or shoot them before it even happens, or put an obstacle between you and them, or move in any other way. Same thing applies to gunners. Gunners, when this game came out, were scary because everyone was like, oh my god, I don't know what magic mysteries could be in this room. I better hang back and play it safe, and we'll pick off gunners from resistance. And all the gunners get set up, and they spend their 10 seconds peeking out from behind boxes, and they're like, oh, they're the heretics. And they start firing their guns, and you're like, oh my god. Nowadays, you're playing Zealot. The gunners take 10 seconds to fucking scratch their ass, and you run up on them at roughly 10 meters per second, moving like fucking Usain Bolt, and you stab them through the back of the neck, and you sever their fucking vertebra from their head. And then you do that to 10 other gunners, and they're all running all over the place. They're not even shooting. And when they do start shooting, guess what you do? You slide. You just power slide. You power slide again, and then you power slide again. And then, just for good measure, you power slide 5 more times between every gunner in the room, and they never manage to even land a single bullet on you. And if they do land a single bullet on you, and you lose like 8% of your toughness, because your toughness damage reduction is fucking insane because you're Zealot and you're always critting, guess what you do? The next gunner that's approximately 1 football field away, you lock onto him and you charge at him. And then you crack your knuckles and you scratch your chinny chin and, readjust your headphones. And then by the time you're done with all that, you've reached your target and you've regenerated all your stamina and your toughness is back to full, and you stab that guy right through his orbital. You do not need gunner damage resistance because you can ignore literally all gunner damage resistance in the game because you're fucking Zealot and you're like untouchable by anything with a bullet in its name. Corruption damage resistance. Is this like a grimoire hunting? Like, is this, maybe this build was made for some sort of like penance challenge or something, because 30% corruption damage resistance gives us resistance to holding grimoires, which is completely optional and no one ever does it, standing in snail trails, which is completely optional and a questionable decision if you're doing it, getting hit by pox bursters, which is completely optional and really should be shoved away instead, and getting hit by trash enemies, which should never ever be happening under any circumstances. Those are the sources of corruption in this game. So I don't know why we're wasting 2 of our precious slots on corruption resistance. Then we got health. Already said this should be toughness instead, and I have no problem with it. Flamer resistance. We're Zealot, so if a flamer puts the flames on you, just dodge to the side or run to the side and then charge at them, or just charge at them and run through their fire and stab them in the face. Okay, problem solved. So we don't need flamer resistance, and we definitely don't need just 20% because that's like barely anything anyway, so whatever. And then we got stamina regen, the only good perk in this whole thing. Why, if we took 12% stamina regen, did we not just take the other 2? Because there are only 3 sources of stamina regen in this game, and they're all very valuable. The sources are this Curio right here, this Curio right here, and this Curio right here. So if we valued 12% stamina regen, you know what would be even better than that? 2 more sets of stamina regen, because there's only that. So we're the Zealot, we have the best stamina regen in the game, 1.5. You know what's better than 1.5? Multiplying that by 1.12, to whatever that fucking amounts to. But you know what's better than that? Multiplying that by 1.36. We should be taking stamina regen every Curio, because having stamina is the most important thing at a high level of play. If you run out of stamina, you can die. And not having stamina in a situation where you needed stamina is instant death. And the author of this guide does not understand that, and we'll point that out later down, which sort of leads me to think that maybe they're not playing at a very high level of gameplay, because lower, like, and I really mean no like shame to them, but like when you're playing at a high level of gameplay, especially on Zealot, you are using a fuck ton of stamina all the time, because it allows you to shove enemies and not dodge, but slide and sprint and push stab and block. All really, really important things to do to be avoiding damage in the first place, so we don't even have to worry about taking damage to our toughness. Having enough stamina is top of the list. You just need to have enough. You don't need to have like a crazy amount. You just need to have enough. And one of the ways of having enough is having stamina regen. So we need to have stamina, and one of our Curios should be stamina. That would be the meta choice. Okay, coming down here into the tree, things are about to get even more confusing, because we come all the way down this way, and this is the correct path to take, because these 3 nodes right here are fucking insane. This gives us insane toughness damage reduction. This gives us insane toughness damage replenishment. And this gives us insane crit and bleeds. So all 3 of those together, we have to take this for any good build. So we got that right. But then we're like, Blades of Faith, the meta choice for grenades for the Zealot, because you don't have to steal grenades from your team. They insta-kill specials. They replenish themselves by melee killing enemies, and you can get them from ammo crates, and you basically always have them. Nah, let's not choose that. Let's get the immolation grenade instead. By coming this way and grabbing these two admittedly fine nodes, but also these two crap nodes. And we're going to take Restoring Faith, and right here, if this was meta, right, this is the best possible build, right here, when you take this node that replenishes 20% of the damage you take to your health over 4 seconds, you should immediately be thinking, this isn't very meta anymore, is it? Because I'm relying on a talent to replenish my health. You shouldn't be taking damage. You should be blocking all the damage. You should be shoving enemies out of the way. You should be dodging damage because you're Zealot. You can dodge literally everything in the fucking game. You should be tanking any damage you take on your toughness and then replenishing your toughness instantly through Second Wind and Charge. So this is completely extraneous, and we're spending 2 extra points to get to Immolation Grenade, which is worse. I don't even want to discuss how bad I think Immolation Grenade is. I see a ton of new players using it. I think it's bad. Go do whatever you want, but just know that hands down, it is not the meta choice. The meta choice is knives, because at the very least, knives are a replenishable resource. You will always have them, and you can funnel all of those grenades to your veteran who throws shredder grenades and fucking destroys the whole map with them, or Ogren who throws Ogren frag bombs and destroys the whole map with them. All right, then we got these down here. This is good. Dance of Death and good balance, nice, very nice. Diaractic Swift, maybe like a B tier talent at best. If we had extra points, you could take it. Do we have extra points? Well, we'll find out in a second if maybe we should have had a little bit of extra points when it comes to the bottom of the tree. Coming over this way, we grant Duelist, which, yes, correct, good choice. But we grab Until Death and Holy Revenant. This is not meta, right? Because we're a perfectly skilled player. If we're a perfectly skilled player, why are we stacking 352 HP? Which is what you would have if you had maxed out health on all of these. Why are we stacking 352 HP and then losing all of our HP plus the 20% that we would gain back? So that's 421 HP. We lose 421 HP by getting the shit beat out of us across the map, and then we have to have we have to spend 2 points on an ability that prevents us from dying, so we can regenerate more HP, so we can get beat down again. If you're playing effectively, and I used to take this talent all the time, right? Because it saves you from fucking up, like, you know, when you fuck up. But the author of this build asserts that the only instances in which you will end up taking damage if you're a high skill player are through bad luck. And when bad luck hits you, like it's some, you know, white whale, when bad luck rears its ugly head and attempts to fucking murder you, you need health to survive. Wrong, right? You just need to play better and you'll get out of the situation. There is no such thing as luck in this game. And I'm gonna get to that a little later on, but let's hold that thought for now. So we're already inefficient because we're taking these nodes and we're wasting this, because why do we need 20% extra health? We already have 63% extra health up here. And then we get Holy Revenant. Why are we taking this? We should have so much health we're never even close to fucking dying. We shouldn't, you know, the assertion with having all this is that our health will never be low. What the fuck am I doing getting down to 0 HP and then having to regen it? So I should be saving a node by going over here instead, even though Desperation isn't all that great. All right, coming down here. Remember earlier when I said, it would kind of, like, this is fine, but wouldn't it suck if we were just a little bit short on points and couldn't get some important stuff later down in the tree? Yeah, so we got to here and we realized we were out of points and we said, nah, 10% crit chance, fuck, that is pretty good, but you know what I'll do? Is let's go back into my weapon and I'll put Riposte on the weapon. And that'll cover it. Instead, here's an idea. We could just not take this B to C tier node in thy wrath be swift. I'm pissing off so many people over there saying that, but this does nothing for you unless you get hit. So just don't get hit, right? Just dodge enemies. All your other abilities, good balance, Duelist, Second Wind, they all activate on dodge. And then you have this one ability that activates on getting hit. I wonder which one I should do. Should I get hit or should I dodge the attacks? You know what I mean? Okay, so like, let's look at this build. Wow, well, wouldn't you know it? It gets down here and gets this 10%. And you know what that enables us to do? We have that 10% crit. Now all we have to do is we have to put 5% crit on our weapon. And we're at that at or around that magic 50% number where we have enough crit that we don't need to spec anymore into crit. And you know what we can put on our weapon instead? We can put thrust on here, which makes our fucking sword destroy. You can drop a 12,000 damage crit on like a Plague-Ogren's face, or insta-kill a crusher, or any number of things, because we can put a damage blessing on here instead of a useless extra crit that we don't need blessing. Riposte is fine, but it's overkill on this build if you have this crit node and the crit on your weapon, but he doesn't because he ran out of points because he spent them up here inefficiently. So this is a much more efficient spending of points and allows you to get thrust. Or the other good choice would be precog, which also activates on dodge, coincidentally, and not on getting hit. So yeah, don't spec for getting hit, spec for dodging, because that's what duelist is, or that's what fucking zealot's all about. Okay, so yeah, here's the explanation of all this stuff. What I'm gonna say while I'm waiting to scroll to the bottom of this is that this player very clearly made this guide a long time ago and has updated it over time, and they've really stuck to their guns for some things being good in the past versus where they are now, especially the stuff about max health being as good as max toughness, and this is where I want to kind of get argumentative with it. I don't expect to ever hear anything back, and I really don't care. Clearly they have their perspective and I have mine, but I just want all my viewers to take my perspective and then go parrot it mindlessly. Okay, so the overwhelming majority of damage you will take as a highly skilled player is going to come from sudden burst damage incidents that immediately zero your toughness no matter how much you have stacked. There is one thing in this game that immediately zeroes your toughness, and that is pox bursters. Oh, and snipers. Okay, guess which? Okay, and look. So hold on. There's some problems here, right? He asserts, right, that increased health is a buffer against bad luck. Toughness often is not, and bad luck is the only thing that should ever be causing you significant damage during a match. That's interesting, because in these instances where our toughness is being quote-unquote instantly broken, those examples are a flamer that you were unaware of clipping you when you can't move. Now, whose fault is it that the flamer showed up and you were unaware of it and that you can't move? Is that bad luck, or is that bad awareness of specials and bad situational and positioning awareness to get yourself put into a situation where you can't move? Is a poxburster jumping out of a door that you're standing next to with absolutely no warning, is that bad luck, or is that standing next to a known spawn door that, you know, there are spawn doors, we know not to stand next to them because this happens? Or being grabbed and disabled at the wrong moment in the wrong location, thrown, pinned, or blasted into a horde of enemies or fire? Is that bad luck when you get hit by a charger and thrown into a horde of enemies? Or is it potentially something that we could change as players by performing more optimally? And the answer is, of course, it's not bad luck. There is no such thing as luck in this game. The only thing that people might consider luck is how fucking hog wild the director decides to go in a game. But I'm going to tell you right now, even if the director goes hog wild, that's still part of the game. You need to step up to the challenge and use your skill to combat the game's intent to kill you. That's the whole game. It's not bad luck when a trapper spawns at the spawn door that's 5 feet behind you. That was a bad choice to stand so close to a spawn door. You can and you should know all the spawn locations for specialists if you're a high skilled player. And he's asserting that the overwhelming majority of damage you will take as a highly skilled player is going to come from sudden burst incidents that immediately zero your toughness. And again, we just assessed the only two ways you can, there's 3 ways you can instantly lose all of your toughness, no matter what toughness you have. Burster, sniper, overhead from a boss, or Plague-Ogren. Oh wait, no, hold on. I don't think even the overhead from a boss or Plague-Ogren, if you have toughness damage reduction, I don't think it instantly kills you. But like the first 2 do, right? But gold shields protect you against those things. So if you have a veteran on your team, you're fine. And if you're a highly skilled player, you are not taking your toughness damage like this. You are not getting hit by snipers. You are not getting hit by bursters. You're pushing those away and you're dodging them. So we are ensuring ourselves more success by taking toughness in the first place, because it allows us to trade hits. We don't take it because it protects us against like getting fucked up and getting stuck in a corner and getting the shit beaten out of us. We take it because I can sometimes say, I have a crusher closing in on me, it's right in front of me. I can kill him right now, but there's a scab bruiser to my right. I have full toughness. I can let that guy on my right hit me, and I will kill this crusher, and then I will immediately ultimate afterwards, and I will regain that toughness, and I'll kill that guy too. That is the sort of decision making you can make at a high level with toughness. You cannot make that decision with health. Once you take the health damage, it's gone. So we use toughness like that because we can trade with it constantly. You can go to 100% toughness, you can take one free hit. Every time you go to 100% toughness, you can take one free hit. And the more toughness damage reduction you have, the more hits you can take before you need to regenerate it, right? You can take more ranged hits, you can take more melee hits, and it's just way more efficient. Okay, so I have a problem with that. And then the second thing I have a huge problem with is stamina is garbage. Psyker and the Vet, I'm quoting by the way, stamina is garbage. Psyker and the Vet are the only classes to achieve and consider stamina curios, and even then it is highly questionable. Taking stamina gives you something you don't need in exchange for one of the most important things that you do need. It is a terrible decision, especially on Zealot. If you can't keep yourself alive without extra stamina, not having enough stamina is not the problem. This is almost word for word wrong. Okay, so stamina, we have 3 on Zealot. When you have the dueling sword equipped, if you look down here in the stats, you get an extra 1 when you have it equipped. So we have 4 stamina. When you're playing any class at a high level, stamina is easily the most important thing in the game. So stamina is whatever the antithesis of garbage is. It is godlike. Because if you have enough stamina, you will never, ever take damage. You know what stamina can do for you? It can push, it can block, it can push stab, and it can sprint. And sprinting and sliding is the number 1 way to avoid range damage in this game. Pushing and blocking is the number 1 way to avoid melee damage. When I am backed into a corner against multiple enemies, first of all, that's not bad luck. That's bad positioning on my part. I shouldn't have been in there in the first place. I could have used some extra stamina to continue moving and looping these enemies. But I'm in this corner. How do I get out of it? Is it by just letting them beat the shit out of me and then having my death prevention activate and then I can maybe wiggle my way out of the corner? No, it's by blocking the enemies that are attacking me and shoving the enemies to stagger them backwards so that I can make some space so I can get out of the corner. Now that I'm out of the corner, what do I need to do to get myself to a better situation? Why? I need to sprint. And as soon as I start sprinting, I hear the attack noise that lets me know something's coming from behind me. I need to block that attack. So I block and I take a little bit of stamina, and I'm sprinting and I'm taking stamina, and I need to sprint and slide, and that takes stamina. If at any point during that situation, when I was trapped in that corner and I'm blocking attacks and I start to shove to get out and I run out of stamina right then and there, and then I take an attack, my block gets broken and I'm staggered for 1 second, and that's the second when you die. That's when you die, is you get beat to death right then and there because you're out of stamina. This is 100%. If you can't keep yourself alive without extra stamina, not having enough stamina is the problem. Stamina is not a problem, right? Stamina is useless until you run out. And that is the problem. You will 100% die. If you're in a situation where you need stamina and you run out, you die. And you are not managing your stamina correctly if you are not using it efficiently, or if you're not using a lot of it. If you are just walking around the whole map and not sprinting, that's inefficient play. That's not meta. If you should be sprinting everywhere all the time and sliding constantly to close the gaps between you and enemies, which uses stamina. You should be pushing every enemy that ever tries to throw an attack on you. That uses stamina. You should be blocking attacks constantly. That uses stamina. My recommendation is 1 stamina curio. 1 + 3 stamina curio. That will give you enough. But if you have less than that, and you will notice this as you improve as a player and start to use your stamina in order to completely avoid damage, you will run out. And you will run out in a bad time, and it will kill you. And it will kill you a lot. The times where I die on Ogren, the times where I die on Veteran, the times where I die on Zealot, they are all because I get caught in a bad situation and I get hit and I throw up my block and I push, and then I push and I run out of stamina because I push too much, and or you know, I get hit right after I push by something that takes too much stamina from my thing and it chips my block, and then I get hit a bunch. Like, that's how you die with no stamina. Stamina is so important in this game. Stamina is your first layer of offense and defense, and is the sole offensive stat that Curios provides you. The ability to sprint and close distances, the ability to push stab as much as you want, those are offensive stats that this quote-unquote defensive Curio can provide you. You should be taking it. And it's also your first layer of defense. It is the ability to avoid all damage in the game, because you can block and you can shove against enemies that are going to melee you, and you can sprint and dodge against enemies that are going to hit you with ranged attacks. So we need stamina. You need to be taking stamina. Do not listen to whatever this says. Okay. All right, guys. That is, oh, and also combat ability regeneration is somehow in completely useless waste of a slot. Combat ability regeneration is goated. It is easily should be on every Curio in the game. Abilities are the most important thing in the game. They turn the game on its head. You should be taking that. I will hear no argument against it. Okay, all right, guys, that's everything. Thanks for listening to my rant, and I love you very much. Bye.